Name one liberal justice nominated by a Democrat that had their life ruined. They're talking about changing the Electoral College. If they keep the House, the Senate, and the White House, this country will change fundamentally. The Electoral College will be obliterated. We'll go to a popular vote. D.C. and Puerto Rico will become states. There'll be 104 senators. It goes on and on and on. There'll be additional members of the Supreme Court. They'll all be liberal. They're going to take the process, the rules, and change them to their benefit.
Now, that sounds scary, right? Perhaps you could try to comfort yourself by saying, well, it's politics. Things get heated and, it always gets more attention to be a catastrophist. It always will get you more attention. It's a better soundbite to say that everything is going to be destroyed, everything is going to be ruined. But here's what I got to say in defense of Lindsey Graham, or just in furtherance of what Lindsey Graham is saying here. He's just telling you what the Democrats are telling you. They're openly threatening this. They're saying they will do this. And yet when you hear Republicans say it, you think, I mean, come on, they're not really going to do that, are they? Oh, yes, they will. Oh, yes, they will. Friends, they tried a soft coup against the president of the United States based on a lie. Some British bureaucrat loser, ex-MI6 guy, asked a couple of his buddies what they had heard from other buddies about Trump, wrote it up, called it a dossier, and then fed it to the FBI and the American anti-Trump news media and tried to engineer a coup against the president. And this went all the way to the special counsel, the entire national news media, with, an exception of one network and a few, or 5% of the media wasn't on board for this. Everybody else went along with it. That was what they did. They've never apologized. They've never even had any sense of shame from it. In fact, their only problem with it is that it did not succeed. And we think that the Democrats are just going to let this process play out as it is. And we think that if they were to win this election, they would not do everything they could to abuse as much power as possible. They will transform the system, and it would be a transformation into what they wanted it to be all along anyway. They don't like this bulwark against their tyranny that the Constitution provides. They don't want protections for individual rights and minority. I don't mean racial necessarily. I just mean minority viewpoint rights. They don't want that. They want the power to tell you what to do. The Democrat Party is a socialist party. They are socialists. Socialists are, first and foremost, you always hear about it as, making sure everyone has enough or whatever. No, socialism is always about the implementation of a plan. There are a bunch of people who have an idea that's going to make everything better for everyone, but they demand obedience and no check on their authority to do the thing that they need to do, the plan, whether it's the Green New Deal or any number of these Democrat plots to increase their power and their ability to have a say over everything in your life. You're not allowed to push back. You're not allowed to say, hold on a second. There should be some humility in government processes. Government can do a lot of damage. In fact, it does do a lot of damage to people's lives on a regular basis. We should have some agreement beforehand about what the rules are, what the government can and cannot do. Democrats want to erase all of that. They're telling you they want to erase all that. This is not some theory that I've come up with. I'm not seeing something that nobody else thinks is there. They're open about this. Understand what the stakes are then in this presidential election year, where it's effectively, if we don't win, we will burn everything down. We will break the whole system. That's what these riots for months have been about. It's a ventilation, it's a exposition of rage that has built up among Democrats under 4 years of Trump. They don't think they can emotionally and psychologically handle 4 more years. And they're letting us all know, if you think you're allowed to vote for this guy again, think again. We're going to come up with a way to stop you. We're going to come up with a way to break the very process that legitimizes this fascist dictator known as Donald Trump. These people are, simply put, nuts. They have lost it. and they believe that all that they hold dear is on the line right now. They're ratcheting this up. Republicans have, for a long time now, lived with a court that slaps them in the face with bad decisions. We never say we're going to pack the court. We never say we're going to destroy the whole system because it did not give us a desired outcome. That's not our approach. It is the Democrat approach. There's a difference here. The two sides are not the same. Here is socialist AOC talking about what she views as on the line here if the Republicans fill this seat. Play 21.
It's extraordinarily important that we understand the stakes of this vacancy. Our reproductive rights are on the line. Our labor rights are on the line. Our right to health care is on the line. Labor and union protections are on the line. Our climate is on the line. With an early appointment, all of our rights, the rights that so many people died for, voting rights, reproductive rights, healthcare rights, all of those rights are at risk with this appointment. And so we need to make sure that we mobilize on an unprecedented scale to ensure that this vacancy is reserved for the next president.
Mobilize to what end? This is do or die for every Republican senator's career. They know that. If you're a Republican and you don't, Murkowski and Collins, they're done. People recognize who they are. Maybe people would say, oh, it's a political calculation. The Republicans want them for some things. They'll let them on this because they have the votes. All right, maybe theoretically, but that's only because they have the votes without them. Trust me, if they were two necessary votes in this process, no Republican would ever want to cast a ballot for either of them ever again. We understand what the stakes are. She is telling you, AOC here is telling you, that they're going to do an unprecedented mobilization. What's the point? What's the point of that mobilization? We know what they think. We know what they want. They're not going to change our minds. It's not going to happen. But there's I believe, an implied menace to all of this. The Democrat Party has been mobilized for months. We see it on the streets, demanding people bend the knee, literally bend the knee, demanding people profess their allegiance to a Marxist, racially divisive movement known as Black Lives Matter, demanding that people stop in their cars and quake in fear or else, burning down businesses, setting fire to government buildings, attacking police officers, shooting lasers in their eyes, throwing bottles full of urine and feces at them. That's what the Democrats have done for mobilization. They could have had peaceful marches across the board, or they invited Republicans to come down and talk to them. They wanted to convert people. They wanted independents to understand the Democrats would provide better governance, better quality health care, more fair. No, instead, you've got a bunch of maniacs who justify political violence and who think that if you don't believe there are 37 genders, you're an evil anti-science bigot. That's the Democrat Party today. And then let's just look at a couple of the areas, a couple of the issues that AOC outlines for being under assault here. Our reproductive rights. I know we often don't put it in these terms, but given what Democrats are willing to justify as part of the abortion industry, what do you think they're really not willing to do to their fellow human beings? It's a harsh question, but I think it's an important one. Ask a Democrat politician, should you be able to abort a baby at 9 months in the womb? And they will say yes. I mean, they might try to dodge the question. There's that. But ultimately, they will say yes. If they're willing to do that, do you think that they have some guiding moral compass on other issues that's all of a sudden humane and decent? No, I'm afraid that their moral compass, I'm afraid that their very souls themselves become corrupted in this process. And when somebody who has been a party to evil ideas for a long time is challenged on them and might have to face the reality of the widespread recognition of the moral deficiencies of those ideas, they become desperate. Nobody wants to think they're the bad guy or the bad girl. Nobody wants to think that. But sometimes the mirror shows you things you don't want to see. Climate is on the line. They believe, and I'm not exaggerating this, I'm not going beyond the most mainstream rhetoric from the most powerful Democrats in the country. They believe that climate is an existential crisis that threatens the entirety of the human race. Our species will go extinct unless you listen to people like Gavin Newsom and take shorter showers and use renewable energy that is hyper expensive and very inconvenient right now. That's mainstream Democrat thinking. They really believe this. I still can't get a great deal on beachfront property in Palm Beach, despite the science, but you're supposed to believe this, friends. You're supposed to believe 20 years, 30 years, it's all going to be underwater. Okay. Sell me those beachfront. Sell me the Obama mansion in Martha's Vineyard for, a couple of $100,000. I'll pay a couple of $100,000. I could probably take out a bank loan and afford that. I think he paid $11 million for his house. But I thought it's all going to be underwater. But they believe, they've convinced themselves it is an existential issue for the human race. What would you be willing to do to save the human race? What would you be willing to do to protect the legacy and future of your party from the recognition of its deep moral stain with the abortion practice of the last 40 some odd years? What would you be willing to do? I can't tell you I know what their plan is, but we're about to find out. This is the calm before the storm, and it's not even that calm because we're in an election cycle. But we've got a few days here while all that's happening is there's silence as the enemy, so to speak, is preparing its artillery shells and getting all of its magazines in order for an all-out assault. That's where the Democrats are right now. Will it be successful? I don't know. I certainly hope we'll be able to hold the line. But they're not going to go quietly on this, friends. They have no real legal recourse. They have no mechanism within our system to stop this. So you're effectively guaranteed they will go outside the system or break the system. That's it. There is no, they sit back respectfully and allow the game to be played by the pre-established and agreed upon rules. That is not an option for these Democrats. Do not be fooled. What does losing your home have to do with the COVID-19 pandemic? Well, here's the thing. Home title theft is a cybercrime, and the FBI says cyber theft is up 75% during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's growing constantly. The bad guys from all over the world find ways to rip you off. They can do this using your home's title. It's online, and the bad guys then use a quitclaim deed to kick you off your home's title, put them on, and they start taking out cash based on your equity. You might not find out about this until you start getting bills in the mail or perhaps even an eviction notice. The usual identity theft services do not protect you. You've got to go with Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock creates a virtual barrier around your home's title. Just go to HometitleLock.com, use the promo code BUCK. You'll get 30 free days of protection. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code BUCK for 30 free days of protection. You can also check and see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it. HometitleLock.com, promo code BUCK.
I don't believe that Donald J. Trump, people, gets to name 3 justices to the Supreme Court. The guy can't even name 3 branches of government, but he gets to name 3 justices who serve for life. This is the same guy who's had to fire everyone he's hired because of how bad he is at hiring people for life. Trump can't even pick his own partner for life, but he gets to do it for America? Wow, this country's rock and roll.
Wow, this guy's not funny. Amazing. Really a stunning circumstance and situation that Trevor Noah is a comedian who focuses on American politics, despite being wildly ignorant of them. nonetheless, here we are. Yeah, the president does get to pick 3. Cry more, libs. I don't know what else to say. This is the system we have. You know, when Barack Obama won re-election in 2012 and, just kicked Mitt Romney's butt after kicking John McCain's butt, I was annoyed. I thought the American people made the wrong decision. And then I thought, okay, let's, prepare to make the argument and be in political opposition to bad policies and get ready for the next election. That's what adults do. That's what serious people with principles and values and a sense of history and a need for stability and continuity within our system, that's what they do. That is not what Democrats do. And they're promising. I mean, I'm not making this up. They're promising that is not what they will do. But there's another issue here. Biden is not willing to tell people who he would put forward as a Supreme Court nominee. Isn't that an interesting one for a second? Play clip 20.
Joe Biden has refused to list the names of his potential justices because he knows they're too extreme to withstand any form of public review. If Joe Biden and the Democrats take power, they will pack the Supreme Court with far-left radicals who will unilaterally transform American society far beyond recognition.
Let's all really dig into this for a second. Producer Mark, do we have Biden actually saying that that's all he's got to say on that? I don't know if we pulled
We
out.
do not.
Oh, okay. Because I know that he said, there is a clip of it, but anyway, he's just basically said, I don't want people to focus on me. Let's focus on something else. When he's asked who he would appoint, or would he put forward a list even? Give him some time to pull together the list. Shouldn't he have a list? He wants to be president of the United States. You don't think there are a lot of left-wing legal groups out there that have already thought long and hard about which judicial activist, left-wing, climate change alarmist nut job they're going to put on the Supreme Court? Trust me, they've thought about this. Why won't Biden tell us? Well, this gets you back to a continuing theme between Democrats and Republicans. Republicans tell people what they want to do, right? And then they try to do it in office. Sometimes they're unsuccessful. Sometimes they... Democrats don't want the general public to know what they're really going to do because they won't win any independent votes if people actually knew how crazy they were. So Democrats always pretend to be less Democrat when they're up for election. If anything, Republicans are often not Republican enough. They lose votes because the base doesn't believe them. Republicans lose votes because people on the right think that they'll become a chicken when they get to D.C. and they'll be a crony capitalist chamber of commerce stooge. Democrats are, we're not that crazy. No, we wouldn't do that. We're centrist, man. We're Joe Biden's party, man. Yeah, sure. And then the activist class gets to make all the decisions when push comes to shove. And then the socialists are the ones who get on TV, who run the party's agenda, who push for the most radical. I mean, look, Obama wanted single-payer health care and couldn't get it because they didn't have enough Democrat support for it. But that was what they were initially going for. Obama wanted amnesty, and Republicans almost went along with it. And Obama tried to get massive climate change regulations done, rules and laws passed. How much more left-wing is he really going to be? Under the circumstances of the time, I know that he couldn't go full Karl Marx, but certainly moving in that direction. But we're reminded here, Biden won't tell people what Trump says is absolutely true. Biden will not tell people who he would put on the Supreme Court because it would be a left-wing activist and people would get to know exactly what the Democrat plan for that seat is. Got to hide the truth, people.
Back then, we were not aware that 40 to 45% of people were asymptomatic, nor were we aware that a substantial proportion of people who get infected from people who are without symptoms. That makes it overwhelmingly important for everyone to wear a mask. So when people say, well, why did you change your stance and why are you emphasizing masks so much now when back then you didn't? And in fact, you even said you shouldn't because there was a shortage of masks. Well, the data now are very, very clear, and that's why we have to act on the data. So we need to put that nonsense behind us about, well, they keep changing their minds. Masks work. Physical distancing works. Avoiding crowds work. Thank you, Sanjay, for giving me the opportunity to be on television now to say that. That is the fact. So people should not worry that that's wrong or worry that that's something that's going to change. This is where we are, and it's based on fact.
Okay, where are the studies that show the reduction in transmission from mask wearing? I'm just wondering. I asked that question honestly. I'm sure there are some. There are probably some studies. Why don't we see them all the time? Why is it that Sweden doesn't have masks required and is now at basically zero, close to zero deaths a day and very, very few infections and has no plans to shut down? The UK currently is about to shut down. Wait, I thought that America was in a bad place this summer from COVID because we're such a bunch of, red state, Bible-thumping, Trump-supporting morons, right? That was what the media was telling us all summer. But now Europe is having its second wave. Oh, wait. Maybe what you do by locking down is delay the spread of the virus in a community to a population of people. You don't stop it. Is that a theory that holds water? I mean, someone give this some thought on your own. But Fauci here is saying, oh, we didn't realize that there was this asymptomatic spread that was going on, and we thought there was going to be a mask shortage. How much confidence can I have in this guy's judgment when he really thought that the United States of America was going to run out of bandanas and cloth masks? Anybody? We're going to run out. We can't wear a mask because we're going to run out of masks. No, we're not. But not even close. Now they're giving out. I go to places they're giving out masks. Oh, here you go. Here's a mask. Yeah, it's the issue here, as always, has been: is this aerosolized in a way that mask wearing is largely ineffective or largely effective? If it reduces, the transmission of the virus by 5%, it's not worth the hassle. It's just not. For a virus that kills 0.001% or 0.03% or whatever it is now of the people who get it. But we're going to be wearing masks forever now, folks. That's the new rule, at least for another year. And as I've been telling you, the Democrat plan is not to finally relent and let America have its life back. The Democrat plan is to use our fear, our frustration, and the almost unrestricted powers that they now have in order to ram through policies that they want and to change our political culture, too, into one of obedience. Do it because we say so. Wait, hold on. Don't I have rights? Don't I have liberties? No, you don't. You have what they tell you have now. Oh, interesting. The Dr. Fauci here is never. This guy's not honestly a person of judgment, not a person that I would want to listen to for a personal health need. Like, I wouldn't go to Dr. Fauci and be like, oh yeah, this guy says that this is my big health problem. I got to tackle it the way that he says. Nope. No faith in this guy whatsoever. But of course, Trump can't fire him because then that would seem like he's, political. It would just give them a narrative before the election. It doesn't really serve, I think. I don't think it serves a purpose. It's a political calculation not to fire him at this point. What I'm trying to say. They did change their minds. And the fact that here you have a scientist who is kind of smarmy about the whole mind-changing issue just goes to show you that, they don't want anyone questioning them. They don't want anyone saying, hold on a second. What is this all about? Sure enough. Now we're at asymptomatic spread. So everyone has, if asymptomatic spread is what they say it is, they'll have a case then that we'll have to wear masks all the time for years and years to come, because who knows if maybe it's a COVID-19 variant now and it could come back and you don't know, you could have it. There's only one thing at this point that I want to tell Fauci and the lockdown chorus, and it's 2 words, and the second one is you, and the first word is I can't say it on radio. That's what I want to say to them. I'm tired of this. I'm sick of this. They've been wrong all along. And now we're getting into the politics even of the aerosolized virus. You see this with the CDC. They changed their guidance on this. They said it was a draft. It wasn't yet ready. That's kind of a big thing, isn't it? The Centers for Disease Control, people have been wondering for a while, like, what you really do. And then COVID-19 comes along and, oh, okay, now we've got a purpose. And you mess up the whole thing from the start. You mess up the testing kits when it was most useful to know how fast and where the virus was spreading. And now you put out that the virus is spread through aerosol as opposed to droplets. And this is a pretty this is an important distinction. Droplets is spit and things coming out of your mouth, and including when you talk or sing or do things like that. Droplets would be actual physical carriage of the virus in fluid, even very small. But the idea here is that a mask will stop those droplets from being in the air. Aerosolized virus, which is what the CDC guidance just was temporarily, and then they took it down. They changed their minds. Would be, just by speaking, the virus is actually getting into the air in micro droplets that evaporate, but then you essentially have virus clouds in the air around people when they're talking. Right? And viruses are all over our environment all the time, so this shouldn't be a surprise. There's virus all over. There's virus right now on your hands. There is virus on your body. There's virus in your mouth. Not COVID, but although maybe. But these viruses are in our environment, just like bacteria, just like all these other. Go back to your basic 6th grade science class. It's all over the place. But the aerosolized virus claim, that was so interesting because. So it can linger in the air, and it's so small that it can stay suspended in the air for a couple of hours. That was what the CDC guidance was now saying. But people that are walking around with the mask down so their nose is a little bit exposed, or that have gaps above the mask and below the mask, they're totally protected from this. Right. Because of the magic properties of virus protection. I'll tell you this, the cloth masks that people are wearing would not work as a prophylactic device during amorous moments to prevent you from having children, right? It's porous. But the cloth mask is supposed to protect you from the aerosolized droplets in the air that now the CDC is saying, well, no, that's not really a thing. That's not really a thing. I'm just putting out there, do we think it's possible that at a time when we've already heard the CDC told us that they were adjusting their dictates, their guidance they call it, but it's really a dictation. We're supposed to do what they say over mask wearing because they were worried that that the healthcare providers would run out. So they lied to us for our own good on that one, right? They've admitted that. But now, when we're about to enter the second, right when we're supposed to be finding out about a vaccine, we're going to enter a second wave of panic here. This is what they want to do. A third wave of panic about a fall, winter wave of this virus. And they're shutting down their own guidance that was published, but they said it was a draft and they weren't ready yet, that says that the virus is so small that it stays in the air once an infected person has been breathing there for hours. And you're supposed to believe that a loosely fitted piece of cloth over your mouth and nose is a serious means of protecting yourself from that. Okay. Don't ask any questions. Don't ask any questions. Now, does it protect you at some level? Is it better to have one than, maybe under certain circumstances. Maybe it's 5%, 15% more effective than to not have it because, maybe some of the particles are big enough that they get. But this idea that mask wearing is the panacea, which is really what we've been led to believe now. We've gone from don't wear a mask to maybe to sometimes to, oh my God, masks will cure us all. That's now the new theory. Masks will stop this thing in its tracks. If only you did more and wore more masks. No, not buying it. Not buying it. This wasn't the guidance for influenza seasons in the past when people were dying in large numbers, tens of thousands, not quite 200,000, but tens of thousands dying from pandemic disease during influenza season. So, you know, they don't want you to ask any questions. Just obey. That's the new way forward, they'll tell you.
Dr. Anthony Fauci overnight made clear that he thinks we will be and should be wearing masks probably for all of 2021.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. People talk about the vaccine, which I think people are optimistic about, although we still haven't seen data on that. That's another issue. People have creating all these schedules and the sort of being optimistic about it, and I am as well. But we haven't seen the data from this phase 3 trial. It's a blinded trial. No one has really seen this data yet. But I think what Dr. Fauci has said, what others have said as well, is that it's not going to flip a switch even when the vaccine comes, and that wearing masks indoors, especially now with the knowledge that this can spread through aerosols, is going to be important for some time to come. Until we get to that 60-70% at least of the country being immunized and staying immunized, it's going to be hard to let our guard down.
I'm telling you, you're going to be wearing masks, at least in the blue states, under law until at least, let me think, this time next year, and probably beyond that. So if the Democrats have their way, I would say it's going to be March of 2022 before they stop acting like mask psychos. I'm outside, I'm by myself, there's no more than 30 feet, I'm wearing a mask. Oh yeah, that's right. And tell me that it's not a political prop when Joe Biden is doing interviews from his basement in his home, and there's no one obviously within 15 feet of the guy you can see on the shot, and he's wearing a mask during an interview like a moron. Oh, but I don't know. There's no reason. Why are people putting masks on for their profile photos on social media? Democrats are doing this in particular. Why? It's a prop of a sick country, a country sick because of Donald Trump, but one that will beat this thing if we all just take the collective action dictated to us by the expert class of Fauci and company. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, never before have we had such a willingness for healthy people to live as though they are sick people, because there are some people who are going to get sick no matter what the healthy people do. That's not good. That's not good quarantine policy. That's not good health policy, but that's where we are. I told you that even if Biden wins, you're going to get a national mask mandate. They're going to politicize this even further. We're not done here, folks. I know people are sick of this. They're tired of it. Buck, mask, goes to the mask. They're taking away your freedom. They are making decisions for you they do not have the right to do. Do people care about this or not? Including in some of the redder states. And look what's been going on in Texas. This is not just a New York thing, although New York is the worst. Just remember, we're going to be told to wear masks as we walk into a store for 30 seconds, but you're not going to wear masks sitting down in indoor dining, and you have been wearing masks in indoor dining all over New York State. New York City is just going to be opening up soon. But, Dr. Fauci wants you to know it is not true that they're putting too many restrictions on people and that there's too many costs from this. Is he a policy expert now? This guy's really a third-tier intellect. He's really not very bright, folks. I know we're not allowed, he's a scientist. Oh, beg at the, kneel before High Priest Fauci. This guy doesn't know squat. When was he right when it mattered? When was he right in advance of something? No, all along he's like, I think we're going to do this and then, listen to the experts, the data, live in fear forever, shut down the economy, maybe one day, give it a few years, it'll go away. How would we have been better off Or rather, would we have been worse off without the CDC even existing? I'm just wondering. What would have been better if we had no CDC? That's a question that I want to ask. But here he thinks that people who are complaining about this are, we're being babies. Play two.
It really depends upon the level of virus in the community that you're in. And that's where I think we get a lot of pushback and concern of people think that our recommendations are being too stringent and we're interfering with people's freedom to do what they want to do or getting in the way of opening up the economy. That's not the case at all. You've got to adjust your public health measures in the context of the situation you're in.
Okay, Fauci. 5 people died from COVID-19 in New York City, which has 8.7 million people yesterday. 5 people. Still can't go into a restaurant, sit down, and have a cheeseburger. 5. And they say, oh, Buck, but that's not important. It's kind of important to the 150,000 people whose jobs, whose ability to pay their bills and have health care. It's kind of important to them that we can do that. But we're adjusting our health policy, he says. 500 new cases 260 new cases in New York City, 8.5 million people. Larger than a whole lot of entire states. That's how big New York City is. This place is vast. A few hundred people with cases, over 99% of whom will be totally fine. And of the 5 people who died, it's very sad. Every life is precious. I'd be willing to guess, just based on the numbers we've seen, that the average age was 75 or 80, which is to say that this is dangerous to older people. The rest of us should be able to live our lives. This is nuts. But the mask mania is increasing right now, even as cases going down in New York, because it's political, friends.